Morning Answer with Jennifer Horne.
Thanks for joining us. It is the Morning Answer Wednesday edition. I'm Jennifer Horne. Happy to have you along with us today, and very happy to welcome back to the program our buddy Jim Pfaff is here. He is the president of the Conservative Caucus. The Conservative Caucus.org is where you can find them. You can follow Jim at Jim Pfaff. That's Pfaff. Jim, welcome back. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Jennifer. Glad to be with you.
Absolutely. Now, I don't want to release any information because, we like to know that you are traveling around in an undisclosed, location, wink, wink, wink. But no, you're actually in Indiana today. I'm blowing the whistle on you. And we are so interested in what's happening with redistricting right now. So Texas redistricted. Of course, it was challenged. And the Supreme Court ruled basically saying that they can uphold their redistricting. California followed suit with Prop 50, which actually has challenged has a legal challenge as well. And we are waiting to see how that all plays out later on this month. We'll be getting an update on that tomorrow, by the way, on the program. Other states like Florida, Indiana, and others are also looking at this. And there's been kind of a fight in Indiana. So where are we on the redistricting effort? Do you support it? Does this feel kind of icky to you, or is everything fair in politics?
Oh, no, I'm all for it 100%. Not because I think we need to gerrymander things as bad as possible. The reality is that Democrats have been gerrymandering for years on a political basis. I mean, California there is just a great example of it. And now, obviously, they're going to double down. But honestly, the maps before that were really bad, and then you add the jungle primaries. I mean, California's just a mess. I don't even know if there really are elections in California anymore.
Neither do we. Trust us.
That's right. That's part of the point, though, is that, yes, red states need to be doing this to counter what's happening with Democrats. If you look next door to Indiana here, that is possibly, until California does a new map, that is the most gerrymandered state in the country. There are two interesting districts there. Two districts in that. There are 9 districts that go into Cook County that make it impossible for Republicans to win. But there are 2 particular ones that are interesting, south side of Chicago and south side of Cook County, that snake all the way down to almost Champaign, Illinois, like almost halfway down the state, but all the population's up in Cook County. And they're taking all these people in rural, less populated areas and drawing them in like they belong in Chicago. That has to be countered. You can't sit back and not do anything about it. I'm 100% for this. Indiana should have done this a long time ago, and so we're going to be pushing to make sure they do it. But there are some headwinds from Republicans.
That's what I was going to say. So it seems like the Republicans are the ones holding this up. What is their reasoning?
Well, their reasoning is that this is kind of a corrupt state, Indiana is. I have to say this. Now, I worked deeply in Indiana politics in the 1990s. I was involved with state legislative campaigns. I ran a gubernatorial campaign. I've been doing national politics for most of this century, but still maintain a home here in Indiana. The big problem with Indiana and corruption centers around the Indiana Chamber of Commerce. By the way, people might not be thinking about this. As I bring this up, there's a relevant point. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce was working with unions to defeat Donald Trump in 2020. There's a very famous Time magazine article that people should read that really shows how that happened. In fact, Neil Bradley, who had been the chief of staff for Eric Cantor when he was majority leader in the Congress, he had gone over to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. I was constantly opposing the guy when I was working on Capitol Hill. He's a real snake, and he was heading up this operation to defeat Donald Trump in 2020. The Chambers of Commerce have bought into the to corporatism that really allows major companies to get special favors against smaller businesses, and so the Indiana Chamber of Commerce is a big part of this. In fact, one other thing, I'm going a little long here, but when Mike Pence was governor, by the way, I know Mike Pence. I went to church with Mike and Karen, and he actually introduced me to my first political job. But Mike was really kind of part of a problem here. They did a cities movement during his administration that Mitch Daniels had passed, and they were going to give money to a city from the state government to help them with economic development. Well, they did that. during his administration. The state sent $46 million down to Evansville, who won the thing that year. And Evansville, Indiana turned that into $2 billion of bond issuance to just expand debt and expand government. And of course, all the political actors that are connected with the Indiana Chamber of Commerce got a lot of money out of it. That kind of corruption is part of this. They hate Donald Trump, I guess is really what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
They hate things like Doge. And so they don't want to give Donald Trump or Republicans nationally any favor. They just want to take care of their own right here.
It's really interesting. So President Trump's been putting the pressure on, and look, we need if as you said, this is a game that Democrats started, and it's a game that Republicans need to finish. We cannot continue to play defense. We need a Republican Party that is strong and playing offense. And that's what, I hear a million talking heads say, well, we need to figure out how to win when Trump isn't on the ballot. Here's how you figure out how to win when Trump isn't on the ballot. You start adapting his strategies and his style, which is to go and play offense and stop playing defense, which is what Republicans have done for 20 plus years now, is just try to respond instead of setting the playbook.
Yeah, absolutely. I started writing working towards the writing of a book that I called and will someday publish, called Against Nice. Listen, you got to stop being nice to Christian thinking people out there and people of faith. There's no biblical command to be nice. You need to fight against the culture, not fighting for fighting's sake, but really standing on things that matter.
Yeah.
And this is one thing that Donald Trump has done very, very well. This is one of those areas, this redistricting thing. Democrats want to destroy this country. By the way, I just read this morning an article, and you talk about Minnesota's in the news, obviously, for their corruption. The University of Minnesota has a program that they're teaching against whiteness, right? And yeah, this is still going. This kind of stuff's still going on up there. But really, what they're saying is Western civilization. They're just essentially fighting against Western civilization. Sure. They just call it a white problem. The reality is the Democrat Party and the far left, Zoran Mamdani or AOC or Ilhan Omar, all of them, they are literally on a course and a path to destroy Western civilization. Mm-hmm. Western civilization brought more freedom than has existed in human history. You talk about slavery, which is one of the big anti-whiteness things and all this sort of thing. Listen, it's Western civilization that pushed back the normal condition of slavery in human society that began in Great Britain. We ended up finishing it off here in the United States. Western civilization has been a benefit and a blessing to world culture. And they want to destroy everything about it, where you have the rule of law and fairness and people being able to make decisions in their lives that benefit them. And that's really what all this is about when you talk about, leftist gerrymandering, whether it's California or Illinois or New York or all the Northeast states there going from Massachusetts north that have 40% Republican voters, but no Republican representatives.
Yeah, no representation.
I mean, that's what it's about.
I mean, that's how we feel in California. Yeah, we're outnumbered as Republicans here, but man, oh man, we do not have the representation of the largest group of Republicans in any state in the United States. It's unreal. All right, Jim, well, we're out of time, but I do want to have you back because we have a lot to talk about with Venezuela and some other things, so we'll have you back on again soon. Make sure you give the Conservative Caucus a look. They do great work. The conservativecaucus.org is the website. Follow Jim at Jim Pfaff on X. And Jim, thanks so much for being with us. Have a great rest of the week.
Great to be with you, Jennifer. Enjoy your Christmas holiday.
Merry Christmas to you. Thanks so much, Jim. All right, guys, as we continue, CNN.